Grog.
Hey everyone, it's a Sideshow podcast with me, Peter Fickling, Keri Warbis and Matthew Weir. So for those of you who never reach the end of the podcast, we normally do a bit of housekeeping and chatting about the various things we've got coming up. But this week, we're going to put it at the beginning because we've got some very exciting news. So Keri, take it away.
Yeah, we've been in contact over months and months with the lovely Madeline Leslie, who plays Chelsea. And a long time ago, she said, I'd love to come on your podcast. And we were setting it all up. And then all of a sudden, she had to put the brakes on it and didn't really tell us why. But it was, we knew it was a restriction from the team at the Archers. And then obviously the big storyline happened and we were like, that's why she wasn't allowed to go anywhere. And now that that's kind of settled down, she's coming on the Cider Shed and will be a guest on our 16th of December podcast.
I'm incredibly biased, but I don't think there's a character I could be more excited about coming on the show. So, from this last year, she's been the center of everything. She's been one of the most likable characters.
Yeah.
And obviously as well, just unbelievably well acted. So I'm very excited about talking to her. And Matthew, I think, is also frothing.
I'm not sure I'm frothing.
Let's try effervescing then.
All right. Yeah. I was thinking the same as Keri was saying. They suddenly had to keep her under wraps, didn't they? I think, because otherwise every other question was going to be who's the baby's father, etc. I think it'd be good fun to get her on and hear her side of the story and the behind the scenes stuff, and just really who Chelsea was when we invited her on the show and how much has changed. I mean, she affects everyone in the show almost, doesn't she?
Yeah. Isn't it mad to think that she arrived, I think it was 2021, and is already such a major force of energy?
Driving lesson running Blake over, wasn't it?
Yes.
If she had come during the baby, the dad's identity crisis, it would have been like the famous Paxman Michael Howard interview, just us going, but Madeline, who is the father? No, I hate to be rude, but who is the father for 40 minutes solid?
Yeah, you haven't answered the question.
Yeah, you seem very nice. It's great to have you here. But because I was really taken with that plot.
Whereas now it's just going to be 40 minutes of me asking her if she has an air fryer.
Oh, I don't have one.
And so more housekeeping. Last year, long-term listeners and people with incredibly good memories might remember that we took a week off for Christmas. Now it's complicated this year because we have patrons on Patreon. If you want to be a patron, go to patreon.com/The Cider Shed. And so we are going to be recording a special for patrons next week. We will just waffle on a bit. We're going to talk about the stuff that we don't normally talk about. Matthew's love of Chelsea, why he shouldn't love Chelsea.
The football team.
That's a very good point. Be more precise.
Really throwing me under the bus here.
Well, how am I throwing you under the bus? So anyway, we're going to be waffling on like that for a bit next week. If you have any questions, if any patrons have any questions, then please send them in to us. DM us on Twitter. Just send us tweets. Any of the social medias would be great. All the details at the end, and we will try and cover it when we're chatting next week.
Look forward to that. It would be so nice to get some traction and interaction with our lovely, generous Patreons.
We should even try and get one of our occasional untidy spats on air, see if we can capture that.
It'd be like our version of the Trog tapes.
And also it'll be extra work, so there'll be no fucking bleeps happening. All of the swear words we left in. So anyway, let's do an ad, and then we can talk about the Archers, which is why we're here. Okay, so bit of a change of gear. Ben, he's had a tough week. I think I was a bit uncharitable last week, and I've been having a bit of a think about why I'm maybe not as engaged as some other people. And I think what it might be is that they're playing it for me a little bit too straight, and it feels a little bit lectury. And I suspect you're both going to tell me I'm wrong again, but I'm just really struggling to find, let's put it this way. I take suicide seriously. I take depression seriously. I have a huge amount of empathy for people who are affected by or suffering from either of those conditions or horrible incidents in their life. But for some reason, I'm just not feeling it with this plot. But I know that you two are.
Well, when you say they're being lectury, do you mean the scriptwriters, or do you mean certain characters in how they're dealing with it in the programme, or what angle do you mean?
I feel it's a bit, there's like a single tone. I don't feel like there's a. So, for instance, when Tracy goes downstairs to say to Brad, well, no, Chelsea blurted it out, but Brad finds out about the potential proposal. Brad then launches into I think that's a rubbish idea, and here are the reasons why you shouldn't get married. 50% end in failure, and I feel there aren't any other voices in the Ben plot to add a bit more texture and nuance to it. I feel it's all being played quite straight. Poor Ben, everyone's running around, and maybe they're setting us up for a tragic suicide that might be true to life. But I feel like it's lacking texture for me. It's a bit sort of saccharine and sweet.
I think it's interesting how different characters are responding to what's happening.
Right.
So that's where the texture is for me.
Sure.
I think, Pip was really strange about it. I think she's very sort of one-dimensional and just was, you'll be right as rain soon enough, that kind of tactic. Leonard is putting in a shift, isn't he, of trying to empathise, be sensitive.
Yeah, I was moved by that conversation. So that's what worked for me when he was talking to Leonard. That really did, hit me quite hard.
I mean, we can talk about whether he should or shouldn't have told Pip about the confidential conversation as well. Then there's the David and Ruth dynamic about how they're handling it. So I think that's where it's coming from for me. The Ben himself, is it realistic? Is it not realistic? I don't know. I'm not really sure. He seems quite chipper quite soon. The thing that really drove me mad was that Jill sent a chocolate cake. What a token. Oh, shove your chocolate cake, missus.
Yeah, I like David. I another week of enjoying David. I thought his distress in Sunday's episode when he was recounting the hallucinations back to Ruth, I thought that was very well done. They've really had it turned on their head where they were saying a couple of weeks ago, I think we're quite good at this parenting lark, don't you, Ruth? And they're just right at the other end of the spectrum, questioning how they didn't see any of this. Shame Josh isn't involved in any of this.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yes.
I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah.
Leonard goes to Pip and you're like, Pip.
Josh could have been quite a useful character obviously Josh has been a sympathetic big brother and has always been, but he could have been quite good for maybe like screwing it up by like being overzealous in his attempt to get things right. Or it doesn't necessarily have to be a counterpoint, like someone saying, oh, snap, pull it together, Ben, or something clumsy like that, but it could be someone who's just very obviously screwing up how they deal with it. Maybe that was foreshadowed with the very ominous Ruth was like, we'll have to be with him every second of the day.
Yeah.
Like, God.
We're here for you, Ben. Oh my God, don't say that.
Well, what Ben doesn't realise, what he's got coming at the end of the week is an Airbnb bill.
I did think, it was good to hear David calling out what we all said at the time, which was like, you were a little bit hurried.
They were practically measuring the place up while Josh was still packing his boxes, weren't they?
Yeah, is that why Leonard's trying to get Ben better so he can have the sex room back?
Actually, that didn't really register properly with me until today that he is back at Brookfield. He's not at the stables. He's not back at the kind of the fun house where him and Josh were going to move into Shula's old place and have a right old laugh, and then everything's just gone completely up shit creek, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Is it my imagination that David did make a kind of grunty noise when Jill's name was mentioned, like on Tuesday or something?
On Sunday he did.
Was it? But he sounded like there was a hint that he was in Team Ruth now.
Yeah, there was the moment where Leonard dropped off the cake. He went, "It's a chocolate cake," and David said, "Oh, that's just what we need."
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah.
Then Leonard said, Jill thought it would. Jill said Ben likes them, and he did do a like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Ruth sort of went, he's not really eating very much at the moment.
By the way, Kenton's worried about the bills at the Bull. Jill seems to be cooking 24/7, probably tripled.
But isn't it funny that Jill, her way of dealing with this is to throw food at it, from a distance?
Well, she's got previous with a flapjack, hasn't she?
Yeah. I still long for her to be sort of not outed, but for Leonard to realise what she was like.
Well, I was thinking that this week.
No one has told him yet.
The people in Ben's orbit who have behaved appallingly or contributed to it. You've got Jill. Why isn't Leonard being... I mean, Kenton basically said after he spoke to Ruth that he thought that Jill's behaviour was appalling. But I don't think he wants to upset doesn't want to rock the boat, particularly, does he? And it's not his fight. But the other thing is, you've got David going upstairs to call Elizabeth to basically say, look, Ben's had a complete breakdown. And you wonder what she then goes and says to Vince in all of this.
Yeah, because they made the whole point about the fact that Ben reached suicidal point immediately after Vince was hideous to him in the pub in public.
I thought of you, Keri, because he was deprived of a pie.
Well, I mean, that's enough to send anyone, isn't it, to Beachy Head? I mean, we've all been there, haven't we? Well, I
ate the whole of that big pork pie last weekend, by the way.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, how glorious was it? Is it a 10 out of 10?
Well, I mean, the proof is in the eating. Like, no one else got a slice.
Will you get some in for Christmas?
I might go and get another one next week. I pushed it all the way to the back of the fridge so no one would see it.
That's
Very
nice
deliberately. Charlotte, if you're listening, I'm very sorry. I did, you know.
She's probably got her own things hidden in other places, Peter.
Is that? Oh, yeah, I wonder. She might have a whole separate fridge. You never know. I mean,
I bet you get Tony Chocolonely or whatever he's called for Christmas, don't you?
I highly, highly, highly recommend the Ben & Jerry's limited edition Tony's ice cream.
Oh, there's such a thing.
It's spectacular.
I know someone in Portugal who hides chocolate bars from their other half because he will just devour them in one sitting. So when I was getting the tour of their new apartment, you know, you've always got that redundant sink, that fake sink under the fake drawer under the sink that doesn't do anything. Well, this actually turned out to be a proper drawer. I opened it. There was a huge Milka in there, and she jumped across the room and slammed it shut. I'm like, no, don't! Like he can't know it's there.
How funny.
Yeah, because I think she thinks chocolate is just to break a square off and eat, and I think he's just like, there's dinner, and we'll just devour it.
Have you got an advent calendar, lads?
Cyrus has a Lego one.
Ah.
So every morning I make a tiny, tiny little Lego model.
I've got one sad little string of lights up in the living room because, you know, I'm home alone now and I'll be going at the end of next week. So,
poor Matthew, Joe Pesci's going to turn up any minute. He's going to have to find ever more inventive ways of... We're just going to smash him over the head with an empty bottle of brandy.
Yeah. So do you think that Ben... because Ben then, he told David and Ruth, didn't he? About the fact that he'd had these suicidal thoughts, and Ruth was like, "Oh, why didn't you feel you could talk to us?" And
Ruth, but I absolutely adore your Ruth impersonation.
They're terrible, aren't they?
Well, no, it's not that. You can feel the contempt coming through it. Like it's just like a sort of unspoken loathing, kind of like, oh, the slightly drippy, annoyed voice you do.
Why? Yeah. Oh. And you think, well, you know, have you actually listened to yourselves on radio, like, you know, for the past 10 years? No one would tell you anything, would they?
It was quite canny of them not to... We didn't have to hear it a second time, did we? They cut back and he'd already told them. Because I guess as the listeners, we'd already gone through that with Leonard, so we didn't have to go through it a second time.
Did you think Leonard should have spilled the beans to Pip or anybody?
Well, he didn't say don't tell Pip, didn't he? Ben said don't tell Gran or Mum and Dad.
Oh, did he not say don't tell anyone?
Well, he might have said anyone, but I think in terms of actually naming people, he didn't say don't tell Josh and Pip. And I think it was going back on what he promised, I think, but Leonard kind of saw an in there that, oh, well, maybe I can tell his sister.
And he did agonise over it, didn't he?
And he's not to know that Pip's absolutely useless.
Why hasn't he worked that out yet? He's met her a few times.
Some good news. Toby's coming back next week.
Ooh.
Yeah, he'll be doing the child. They mentioned it this week, didn't they? They didn't have to look after Rosie because Toby's back, and he's in the cast list for next week.
That's right. They did say that.
Toby's on my list of characters that, you know, like really put a bounce in my step when I hear them at the beginning of the episode.
I wonder what wild tales of Stratford-upon-Avon he's going to come back with.
I went to Leamington Spa. But yeah, talking of characters that we famously like, Emma. Lots and lots of Emma this week. Well, a large chunk of Emma anyway.
Oh dear, oh dear. She's doing my head in already, I'm
Really?
afraid. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Oh, it's awful to moan, isn't it? Like she does. But it was all, the coat wars thing,
Yeah, that
which is
was bullshit.
a bit like Star Wars, but with sort of Macintoshes and stuff. Yeah. Just like, oh, are we boring? I actually really enjoyed George. So going,
Yeah.
yes, you are fucking boring.
I came within a gnat's whisker of tweeting that you and George are basically the same
Same.
person.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's good. I really liked him this week.
Yeah, but I didn't think anyone on Twitter would quite understand. Like listeners to the podcast would understand it's not an insult, but quite
Well,
understand
I
it
just
was a
thought
compliment.
you did ask, and he told you, and I
Exactly.
thought
Yeah.
he wasn't wrong, was he?
No.
I want George to go house by house through Ambridge and just unload on people, a little bit like that guy did at the end of Come Dine With Me, Poisonous Pete, and then just leave, walk out the door again.
Like loads of truth bombs, do you mean?
Yeah. It's like that Seth Meyers skit he did with Larry David, where he brought Larry David into the office to deal with all the shit that he doesn't want to deal with. You know, so just like in work meetings, just get him to say the nasty stuff that he can't bring himself
Brilliant.
to say.
Did you think that Harrison was a bit kind of like, anyway, Fallon and I joined Bullingdon Club and taken up to burning 50s in front of homeless? It was, it was a bit insensitive of them kind of crowing about their obviously more bougie lifestyle. They're in a static caravan.
It was, but I thought at the beginning when he sort of went red or white, or shall we take some beers as well? Because he did acknowledge like they're finding things a bit tight. So I think when he was saying let's take quite a bit of stuff over, he was doing it as quite a generous gesture, which might have been a bit clumsy. But then he went really weird, didn't he? Go like, oh, we go out every night, multiplex Tuesday, Italian restaurant. Where they overdid the pasta. And it's like, that's all you want to hear when you've just rustled up a spaghetti bolognese or a cottage pie. And you daren't put your heating on most of the time, but you've put it on for these two.
Mm.
I mean, the coat thing was very clumsy, wasn't it? I thought they didn't need to do that whole coat thing.
Do you think, I don't think this is a gendered thing, but do you think you could be even slightly upset that a friend owns a similar looking item of clothing?
And then point out that the one that I've got that's identical to yours is from a second-hand online shop.
Yeah, I just don't. What is it? It's supposed to be. Is that like sticky back plastic? Is that supposed to be vinted or
eBay? Yeah.
There was a period, like kind of in the mid-noughties, that every time I used to pop back over to Bristol from Dublin, all of my mates had just donned this kind of grey jumper, blue jeans, kind of like some kind of Timberland boot affair, and a green kind of mid-length coat. They all looked identical wherever they went. So I think there wasn't even any point calling ahead to say, what are you wearing tonight? Because they all knew what they were going to be wearing. I mean, Emma said she's not going to wear that coat anymore. Fallon didn't seem remotely bothered.
Well, they don't go out anyway, so it doesn't matter.
No, exactly. I was expecting some wonderful kind of twist that the coat had been mysteriously dropped off by George for Fallon as a mystery present, and he did it because his mum had the same one. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be.
Or that somehow they'd get switched and Emma would get to enjoy the real fur coat and Fallon was left with the
blimey!
one.
You don't think George is going to leave a note in the coat pocket, do you, for Fallon? And Emma's going to find it instead.
Good,
Matthew, you are a genius. There's got to be some reason why they put that stupid thing in, hasn't there?
The meal itself and the table chat. I saw someone tweet, "I've just remembered why I hate dinner parties." I was like,
do you think it will say something like, "I love your tits," and then Emma will open it and go, George, that's disgusting.
Let me suck on your milkers.
You're not supposed to love your mother's own tits.
Yeah.
Not this age, any road.
Jesus Christ! Well, I wish I'd never suggested it. But yeah, I mean, the chat around the dinner table it's just yet again the have and the have-nots, isn't it? And Emma and Ed are scrambling for reasons why they can't go out. Would it be choir practice or, busy nights? By the way, I know Emma hasn't been in for a while, but I don't recall hearing Emma working in the Bull. We're told she works in the Bull 3 nights a week, But I don't
We haven't
recall
heard her do it, have we?
I can't remember a scene in the last 3
No.
or 4 years of her being in the Bull. Yet Tracy gets a job there, and practically every other scene she's behind the bar with Kenton or Jolene.
This is so endearing, Keri. Decades in, and he's still trying to find logic or structure. I mean, it shows a love of the world and an optimism that I simply don't have anymore.
But don't you think that they're close enough as a pair of couples to sort of go, you know, when someone's going, let's all go out for a Chinese banquet, that you wouldn't just go, we can't afford to do that.
Yeah, especially when you know, Fallon is Emma's boss.
Yeah.
And had a ringside seat for the kind of the whole desperation derby of going around the village begging to everyone.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why it went a bit weird, because he was like, 1 minute he's going, let's take loads of booze because they've not got much money. And then saying, let's all go out for Chinese. If he's paying or if they're paying, yes, I would have said something like that if I was Emma.
I had
If you're paying for us, yeah, we'll go. Like,
years and years ago, a friend of mine asked me if I wanted to go out and play snooker with him, and I was like, I'd absolutely love to, but I'm completely skint. So, you know, if you want to pay for me to go out for the night and play snooker with you, that's absolutely fine. And he's like, oh,
said Rory.
and he said that's a bit weird. Oh yeah, sorry, I'm being slow there. Oh yeah, I don't have prostitute.
Peter.
Of course, I had sex with him, Keri. But yeah. And anyway, so we go out. We had a really lovely evening. At the end of it, he said, "I don't know why I thought that was so weird, because actually you were just quite honest about it, and I wouldn't have got. And otherwise, I would have been stuck at home. So I got to do what I wanted to do, and it was playing snooker in a snooker hall. So it wasn't like, you know, crazy. It was probably like 20 quid each for the whole evening. But you know, but just like it was like, yeah, I can come out, but I'm absolutely broke. So
yeah, I'm sure we've all done that over time, haven't we? Where your mate goes, oh, you know, I can't afford to come out. And you go, oh, I'll shout you a few beers tonight, and you can do it when you can afford it. You know,
I did have the flip side of that, where I called up a friend and said, look, I haven't been out all month. I'm so skint. I don't have any money left, but I can't spend another night in. I have to go out. I knew he was skint as well, so the idea was we'd go out for like a skint guy's evening. So he went out, and I spent, like, we were sitting in a pub, and I spent literally my last pound in the world on a round for us. You know, like for the end of a round for us. And then he goes, oh God, yeah, this has been such a good evening. I haven't been out in ages either. And he goes, you know, if things get much much worse, I'm gonna have to dip into my overdraft. And I was like, no, you don't understand what the word skint means.
Oh yeah, well,
overdraft.
one person's skin is another person's.
Yeah,
rich, isn't it?
I then explained to him what skint really meant, and I was expecting him to then go, oh well, I then owe you some money for tonight. Didn't say anything. We are no longer friends.
Is he still a friend? I was.
But so are we going to end up now with, because this whole stealing of the logs storyline, Eddie plants the thought in Ed's head. Ed was like, Emma won't go for that. And there was that really weird bit where Eddie went, ask her, see what she thinks. Like, it was almost hypnotic, wasn't it? And then Emma was dead against it. We're not that desperate. And then after the meal and the whole coat thing, she was like, right, no, I think we should nick stuff.
Yeah, she turned into the log lord all of a sudden.
And are they going to continue to have Harris and Fallon round for dinner? It's going to be like Philip and Elizabeth in The Americans having Stan over for a beer at the same time as they're being like Russian spies, and he works for the government. Or Breaking Bad, isn't it, with Hank? And
it's just that fire's burning very white, Fallon, like it's a wet log. You don't know anything about the disappearance in the. Yeah,
he wouldn't notice, would he? The more that Fallon and Harrison come round, the more that each room is filling with logs, and they have no idea, and it's all getting a bit cramped, and they're sort of eating their like Chinese.
They got a log cabin extension on the static caravan. Oh, when do you knock that up, Ed?
Harrison just doesn't quite know why, but keeps on suggesting they watch Twin Peaks. That's as close as he gets.
Yeah, I mean, they have to get the logs in the dead of night, don't they? It's another jolly jape of the old Grundys. I loved someone on Twitter, I can't remember who, sort of went, get a fucking job about Eddie. Has he ever had an actual job? A proper job, you know? Has he?
Yeah. Is the market a job? It's a job, isn't it?
All of these like schemes are so much effort, aren't they?
Yeah.
For not much. Just go and work in McDonald's, Eddie.
I was thinking about this last week, like it's just it's behavior that when he was 30, 25, 26, maybe coming up to 40 was kind of charming and rakish. And it's just like, you haven't learnt your lesson. You're in your, is he in his 70s, late 60s?
Yeah, must be, mustn't he?
He's well up there, and he's still making these same mistakes. It's just it's no longer charming and funny. It's just stupid and irresponsible. It's like, vomiting in your own shoes and passing out. When you're 22 is a story to tell when you're older. When you're 48, like I am, it's fucking tragic.
Yeah. I also, on another slight tangent, it's a bit weird when people own trees and fields and mountains, just as an aside.
She's only been dead for a month or two, Keri. It's too early to start slagging off the Queen. Come on.
The Duchy of Cornwall.
Yeah.
Yeah. So something will go wrong with the log philandering, won't it?
I just got annoyed while I was trying to think of what shenanigans, how it would all go wrong. I was just like, I can't be bothered to think about it. But then I was, and it's like,
I can't help thinking it might have something to do with the barn, and I can't work out how, because Ruth was really sort of going, but it's a good job we've got this barn, David. That's the one thing we can really rely on. And I thought, I tweeted like, fast forward, and it was a picture of a barn exploding. But
Eddie and Emma sort of chopped down the barn for firewood.
Oh, they stash stuff there.
Oh,
They
God.
wouldn't though, would they? It doesn't work. But
No.
somehow I think the barn has got to go wrong. Well, I'm hoping it does anyway.
Can I make a slight prediction? Kirsty or who's the other one? Rex. When you make these it's for beetles, wasn't it? The wood.
Yeah.
You
not the Beatles.
Yeah, there was with two E's. When you make those piles, I think you don't just leave them like they are. Sometimes you put little tubes in and stuff. And so in the middle of the night, they might not notice that there's actually been some effort that's gone into it. Their ignorance will bite them on the arse, because when Harrison eventually does go around looking for it, there'll be evidence. It'll be, because how would you prove these logs are from that wood? So and there'll be those little tubes or something like that.
Ah, yeah.
And then, of course, the benefit from for the archers is we all learn a little bit more about rewilding and what a valuable.
That was a bit weird, wasn't it? Where they were trying to tidy up the rewilding in case a child saw a log or some willow sculpture was going to sort of.
They were all looking at
them
the ground with their head torches, and they were braining themselves on branches.
Yeah, I mean, like Kirsty was going, like, we should tidy up a bit, and Rex was like, it's the rewilding site though, and you could just imagine he was digging a big pit with spikes in it that he was then going to cover with grass. Kids should experience this. Incidentally, you were saying about the Beatles. The Beatles sang Norwegian Wood, which is about someone lighting a fire at the end, isn't it?
Yeah, what a lovely song that is.
And they also did all do a Maxwell's silver hammer on themselves, blundering through the forest. So we have not gone anywhere near yet. Joy and Mick, which is a big, big thing to talk about, and Tracy and her proposal, which I could do 5 hours on. So which one are we going to take down first?
Oh, let's do Joy and Mick first. Joy's all insecure and actually literally thought Mick was going to cop off with Kirsty.
Yeah.
And
that just speaks to how beaten up she is, doesn't it?
Yeah. Because was it Fallon she spoke to? And she went, do you really think Mick would fancy Kirsty? And that Kirsty would fancy Mick? Are you mad?
She's a minger. He's a minger. Yeah, it was a bit tasty the way that Kirsty just kind of let it go, that Mick described Jolene as a bit of a slave driver. I was like, oh, probably don't say that to Kirsty, eh?
I loved that.
She's not really a slave driver. I know what they're like. I married one.
That was a good voice, Matthew.
Is it?
The Sean Dyche is with us.
Yeah, he's back. He hasn't been here for a while, has he, Sean Dyche?
Odd choice for a quiet, though. Do, re, mi, si, fa, lo.
Oh, aren't the choir shit hot as well, by the way?
Did we hear Fallon's lot?
We did. We heard Jingle Bells. This was on Monday. Suddenly, there was Jingle Bells being sung as if they're on some Christmas special Michael Bublé type.
Whoa. You're not going to add Bublé to the Highlander list, are you?
I love him.
Like a Mickey Bubbles. I was telling Cyrus about him today. He was asking about what Christmas is going to be like. He's sort of saying, are we going to be singing? And I was like, yes, we'll be singing.
I love Michael Bublé.
It's there's got to be space for some unironic saccharine stuff in
Yeah.
life. Not everything can be sort of arch and trendy. You have to have some nonsense in there.
Yeah. He's got a lovely voice, hasn't he?
And he's quite charming as well. I quite like him. Yeah.
At some point, he'll be revealed to be.
I think that might be a little bit litigious. One thing we learned.
I'm
It
sorry.
was more of a fear. It was more of a fear that that's even possible.
That people would say it about him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Catherine Ryan, isn't it, on Louis Theroux this week, where she pretty much said that there's a very well-known sexual predator.
Yeah, well, we all know who that is, don't we?
Well, it doesn't take long, does it? Even Google's giving it away. But anyway,
yeah.
Moving on.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Apparently, Roy's still got a busy social life. He's never at home. So are we to suggest that he's just on a tour of the country with Adil, looking at other luxury locations? Or has he still got his phone open and his Tinder is on fire?
Yeah, and his spreadsheets and everything. Yeah, it was weird to hear him mentioned as having a busy social life. I couldn't, at that point, envisage what on earth that would entail.
I saw an interview with Ben Foster, the goalkeeper, the other day, and he's got exactly the same twang as Roy.
He's quite a funny guy, isn't he? I've heard him on a few TikToks.
He's got his own podcast. He's quite funny, very honest.
Yeah, exactly. Quite sort of humble about it. Quite sort of what's the right word? He doesn't have any grandiose sense of his career.
No,
he knows exactly what he's done, where he's
He's
been.
very good at, because a lot of football punditry is speculation, isn't it? Like, I think he'll be banging on the manager's door and stuff like that. And whenever someone suggests that to something like that to Ben Foster, he just goes, "No, he won't." Or the players are really worried about that. And he went, "They won't give a shit." Like he said, genuinely, they won't care. So he's very good at shattering the myth.
Did you think that Mick, just to go back to Mick and Joy, just to go back, do you think he handled Joy's insecurities well?
I thought he was very loving. I remembered what you said last week, and I was like, yeah, that's completely gone away, any fear of him being a control freak. I thought he was quite effective in, sort of, and he took the pressure off as well, didn't he? He took his foot off the pedal and was like, look, in your own time. Whether he was believable to Joy or not is another thing, but I felt like he was telling the truth.
Yeah, he turned up with a massive bunch of flowers, didn't he? The Christmas roses and the silver leaves, and they snuggled by the fire, and it sounds all genuine, doesn't it? I don't know, though.
You're now on team he's a wrong 'un.
Well, I don't know. There's something about how he speaks that annoys me. I don't know why. I'm not fully there. Let's just put it that way. I need to be convinced.
He's not who I would want for our Joy.
Exactly. That's it. I'm so sort of invested in wanting Joy to be happy that I am very, very, probably overly and irrationally suspicious of anyone who's entering her world, as it were. Despite him being inappropriate at the choir a lot of the time and looking at Fallon's tits.
Yeah, commenting on... Yeah, that was a bit odd, wasn't it?
Oh, it was Jolene's tits. Sorry. Tit correction.
We need to make a jingle out of that.
Tit correction, tit correction, tit correction, tit correction. Oh, tit correction.
Oh, tit correction. I can't do it. How convinced were you that Leonard would open up about, I told her I loved her and she didn't say it back and I think I've blown it?
Do you mean Mick?
Yeah, Mick. What did I say?
Mick, you said Leonard.
Yeah.
Mick correction.
Yeah, Mick correction. They're northern blokes. I don't know, of an age. I don't know. Yeah, how convincing was that? Do you think he would say that? And also Joy opened up, didn't she, and said, he told me he loved me.
Who did she tell about that a couple of weeks ago? She told somebody else, didn't she?
I want to say Fallon.
No, it was Lee.
Oh, yes, of course it was.
Yes. There's a lot of people telling others, so you think, are they really that close, would you?
Yeah, Fallon said something, didn't she? It was like, oh, you two always seemed like absolutely perfect for each other. And I was like...
He's only been around 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's only 5 minutes ago. She was selling soup with Pat at the, whatever it was, pate, whatever it was, at the festival. And then...
Pat, did you say?
What?
He did say Pat.
Pat chat.
No, it was Summer Orchard.
Right, there you
It
go.
was Natasha's juices they were selling.
Selling Natasha's juices.
Tom's going to start doing that on Bridge Farm Fresh soon, I think.
Yeah, she could go a bit goop, couldn't she, Natasha?
Well, she was.
Oh, God.
I'm just.
I've lost
all
it.
three of us are trying not to say Jade Love 8, so let's just say it, get it out of the way, and move on.
Or
Yeah.
the candle. I got a candle advent calendar, not one of those candles. Yeah, that's nice, isn't it? Every day, a lovely different scented candle.
Last year it was the pork scratching one, wasn't it? Did you see Chris's comments on Twitter when I told everyone it was your works due last night? And he said that, imagine the pork scratching fountain.
Yeah, do you know, in the Secret Santa, I got a beautiful bottle of Bordeaux.
Will you be taking that round someone else's house for a dinner party?
No.
I still marvel at the insanely fancy bottle of wine I was given as a present 3 years ago. It just sits on my shelf in the bedroom. Every now and again, I just look at it and think, you would not have lasted a minute.
Will it? It won't ever be opened then, will it?
I think I should give it to Charlotte. Just give it to her, and she can open it whenever she wants. It just sits there.
Yeah, give it to her for Christmas. She get that thing off the shelf.
She's a woman of taste, but she's not one of those people who's like massively into sort of big fancy presents and stuff. She probably if I did go over the top, she'd probably be quite cross with me because we need it for the new house.
Yeah, things are hotting up, aren't they?
Yeah, watch out.
Relocation. Do you think you'll manage it before Christmas?
No, moving in the new year.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm going to be. I can't wait. I absolutely cannot wait. It's going to be glorious.
Get out of London.
Well, no, I'm going to have actual landscape to look at. Like, there's a hill, there's a beach. Oh, look, a forest. Like, the thing I've missed the most about living in California is the ability to walk up, like have topography. Well, you've got it, Keri. You have that, and of course Matthew as well. Like, Matthew's only short distances from all kinds of dramatic views and vistas.
And Porto's pretty hilly as well. People always, when they're visiting here, they always ask for a few little tips before coming, and I was always like, bring shoes you can walk in. And that's my advice.
Yeah, you sort of wander down to the river, don't you? And you think, this is bloody lovely. And then you think, oh shit, I've got to go back to the Airbnb now, up a mountain.
There is a funicular just on the other, on like the other side of the bridge, on the Porto side of the river, that will take you up and down. I can use it for free because of my bus card, but yeah. Peter, are you saying that there isn't a beach in Lewisham?
Costa Catford.
There is a very, very, very nice walk from the beautiful centre of Greenwich up a little river that takes you all the way to Catford. So there are opportunities for some nice walks and stuff, but it's just like, it's London, isn't it? So it's, I've been in London since I was 19, apart from California, and maybe it's time for a bit of a break.
Yeah. Good on you.
There you go. So the opposite of a break, obviously, is a long-term commitment. Tracy and Jazza are going to be as one, locked in matrimony.
Yes. When you said break, then I thought you were doing an ad break, and I sort of paused.
Okay, fair enough. We'll chuck one of them in, and then we'll talk about Tracy and Jazza straight afterwards. So, as I mentioned earlier on, it's who was it? Brad said 50% end in failure. Is that I think Jazza and Tracy are for keeps. You're not a fan of Jazza at the moment, are you? You've gone off Jazza to 3.0.
And even she annoys me as well, because just that sort of bickering about silly stuff, which Chelsea pulled them both up on and said, look, you're both as bad as each other. You can't criticise him for stuff that you're doing yourself. The thing about where she was getting changed into jeans and then a skirt, and he hadn't even noticed that she had any clothes on, basically, and had no opinion. He did say something nice. He said, you look lovely in everything. But both of them wind me up a bit. They go very shouty really easily. Or she does more than him. Anyway, they're match made in heaven, yes.
You put that to Susie when she was on, didn't you? That it was getting on your nerves, the fact that they go at each other so much.
Yeah, really easily. I suppose, maybe that means that they're made for each other. But imagine living in a house with Jazza and Tracy. Just for a second. That's not good, is it?
Being a little bit boring and serious for a moment, is it not a kind of useful window into how the kind of knock-on effect of sort of austerity and the stresses and strains it puts on a family. Posh folk have some of the same marital strifes, but they don't also have to worry about, heating the house, where to get the food.
Possibly, but she's always been like that, Tracy, hasn't she? Always just flying off the handle
Bit
at
feisty.
anything. Yeah,
Mm.
which is part of her charm, I guess. But I did find Brad's response, that sort of, I need to go and process this and make a list about
He's not
pros and
doing that,
cons.
though, is he? He's going upstairs to bang one out to this maths girl he's met at the weekend away.
Oh, yeah, I thought it was a bit of a strange response.
There we go, Keri.
Now you've answered it.
At the beginning of the show, Matthew gave me a light slap on the wrist for suggesting that he was, a little bit libidinous. And here we are at the end, and Brad is now cracking one out in an upstairs room. I feel vindicated.
Also, I mean, I don't know if you know, but I got a side job this week writing the jokes for Brad's new love interest. What Star Wars character takes a long time to get somewhere? R2-D2. I mean, if I said that on here, you two would just go, "Oh my God," and then play the ringing bells.
I think to be Matthew, you've had so much praise over the years for your sterling efforts and your incredible rapier wit. But as your friends, we offer honest feedback when you slip up. Doesn't happen often.
There are a million Star Wars pickup lines that Brad could use, by the way. He just needs to do a bit of research.
Go on then.
Oh, you're the Obi-Wan for me. It's obvious, isn't it? Yodelicious.
See, I don't really understand these.
Hang on. You sat down and didn't you watch Star Wars with the family recently?
Yeah, but I'm not a sort of geek about it. No, I don't. It doesn't stay. It's like I can watch loads of football matches and love a team like Brighton or Arsenal. And, some people go, oh, you remember when they played Aston Villa and it was 5-0? And I was like, no, I can't remember what the score was last week, let alone any details of anything. The Netherlands-Argentina game has ended 2-2 at full time.
Oh, blimey.
No.
Yeah.
Do we need to rush in and see?
Holland equalised in the last minute of added time from 2-0 down. So it's extra time's about to start.
What's that? We're going to smash through the socials and get in.
Go watch something good.
Keri, tell us about Twitter.
At the Cider Shed Pod on Twitter, we're doing so well. 2,780 followers. I don't know why I say that number every week, but I'm not going to stop. It keeps going up. We also had 3 new reviews as well. So thank you so much to Liz in brackets, not that Liz, to Liv1144, and to Charlotte Z, who I forgot to mention last week. Really cracking reviews. Thank you so much for listening and for taking a few minutes out of your life to write about us. And I wish more people would do that. Thank you.
One place you're actually going to see these reviews is used to brilliant effect on our Instagram, which is the same as Twitter, at the Cider Shed Pod, where I've had a lot of fun making little stories, musical reels, etc., putting your words up on there. So yeah, write a review, as Keri said, on Apple Podcasts, and it'll end up appearing there. What else should I plug? Our Facebook, the Cider Shed Podcast, is a Facebook group. You can join us there too.
And just one more reminder, if you want to help us out, patreon.com/the Cider Shed. It's hugely, hugely appreciated. And yeah, there will be the special episode going out as a small thank you while we're away for a week. And of course, Chelsea is here next week. So if you have any thoughts on what we should ask her, you've just heard all the social media channels, give us a shout there and we'll try and do our best to extract some information from Madeline.
Who do you want to win, Argentina or Ned?
Netherlands. They've never won a World Cup, and also I have a perverse dislike of Messi. It's not perverse.
Great. Matthew?
Netherlands for me too. Have you seen the name of the goal scorer for the Netherlands? He scored both.
No.
Wout Weghorst. Sounds like an Archer's character.
Come on, Wout Weghorst. Yeah. Lives just beyond the bypass. Okay, lovely. Well, see you next week, everybody.
Yeah, cheers. Have fun.
See ya. Bye.
Hang on.